We don't know where the recording's going. What's up? We're here today. Yo, yo, yo. So let's change the scene. So we got Bentley here. Oh, that still says Alyssa Bentley. That's not correct.
Uh-oh.
I got you titled as Alyssa. There we go. Wrong Bentley. Here we go. Scene 4. That's the one we want. Click over to scene 4. Scene 4. Da 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 da. We should have audio now, right? Yeah. Okay.
I hope so.
Audio's working. I turned the mute off, but I don't know why it won't go to scene. Oh, am I actually running 100%? We're running 100% of the CPU.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Take that, world.
Don't you have a relatively new CPU in this thing?
I got a Threadripper in there.
And you're running 100%?
96% now.
My lord.
It was maxed out when I was trying to change the scene.
Whew.
But I'm recording this also
Oh, okay.
at the same time. So we might have to stop recording, otherwise we might end up with some nonsense. But yeah, it is what's today? Saturday morning, the 13th of July. And we have a lovely guest here, Mr. Bentley Pascal, whose name I say wrong all the time.
Quite constantly.
How are you supposed to say it?
Pasco.
Pasco.
Yeah, the E is really...
Oh, like Pasco, like the
yeah,
city.
it's Spanish, but they spelled it wrong. And, yeah.
It's like Pasco, like the city.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be spelled.
Okay.
The E just confuses people, but, you know, Ellis Island is 100% accurate all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, like immigration.
It was-
like that's not a hot button topic right now.
It was great. Back in the 1800s
I love
or
how it's
whatever.
like, my family came over here legally. And you're like, they got on a wood boat, right? In a wooden boat. A boat made of planks of wood, nailed together, by the
Hey,
way.
man, they spent 3 months on that boat. all
Nailed together. And sometimes with wood pegs. Got on a boat and then just landed and showed up, and they were like, yeah, okay, you're here now, you know. So I always try to remind that to people, is that, like, look, when this stuff is going on and you know, people try to claim that their family came here the legal way, you know, it's like, it's not as though your dad was a doctor, you know, in 2012 and came here, you know. For a lot of people, obviously, some people it's like that, but
Yeah.
right, not my family. Like, if you trace all the way back to
How far back can
when
you go?
I think like 6 generations. I think 6
Yeah.
for me. You know, like my ancestor that came here was he was a member of like the Royal Guard, I believe, from Denmark, and just was like, nah, I don't want to be in Denmark anymore. And just like
Interesting.
got on a boat and came to America, and they were like, okay, you're here now.
So, like, depending on where you trace in my family, right? On my dad's side, we can trace all the way back to the 1300s.
Oh, okay.
When our family was in Spain,
Mm-hmm.
well, what is now Spain, as goat herders.
Oh, okay.
But the most recent, like, immigrant in my family is my dad's mom.
Okay.
So her and her sister came over from Sweden. They're like half Swedish, half Finnish.
Okay.
Hence why I'm so pasty white.
Did you get burned by the sun?
Well, it's funny. They didn't want to live the kind of family life because they would have had some weird arranged marriage. But their family was actually very wealthy, and they left all of it behind to come to the United States.
huh. Okay.
Like they had
Just bailed on that. Like,
hectares and hectares of very profitable farmland.
oh my God, you're using words like hectares?
I know, right? Because
Are you going to come up with a hogshead pretty soon?
Because acres is not enough.
I'm thinking, although I will tell you, I'm thinking we got to start measuring our aquariums in Hogshead,
God.
right?
What, are we going to start doing the weight in stone while we're at it? I mean,
No, Hogshead is legitimate American
yeah, I
measurement.
I know. I just don't remember what it equates to.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up. So, yeah, I want to hear more about your family, though.
So I actually have at my house right now, because it moved from my mom's old house, the first piece of furniture that my dad's mom bought.
Okay.
After she'd made it to the United States. So actually she got grounded and finally kind of made her way.
Mm-hmm.
The very first piece of furniture she bought was a little like china cabinet that's white and ancient from I think it was bought back in like the 30s.
Okay. And
that's like sitting in my garage in the pile of storage that my garage is right now. Where like the other side of my family is a complete mess. My mom's side of the family is quite a hoot.
It's hard to keep track of exactly what's going on there.
It's
Yeah.
It's a giant war is the easiest way to put it out there.
Okay.
Not a lot of criminals, but like it's the ancestry. So we're German, French, English, Scottish, Spanish. It's like all of these have just done nothing but fight with each other at the times in which our family met those opposing portions of them.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually when they came to the States, we're part Cherokee and Blackfoot.
Oh.
Again.
Okay.
In times of conflict. Like that is my mom's side of the family's messed up, man.
Yeah. That's problematic at the very least, right?
Yeah. And that's it's just weird and interesting when my mom did a ton of ancestry, so I learned all this stuff when I was a kid. It's like my dad's side is like simple and relatively easy. It's a lot of like former farmers, and then eventually when he and his dad were doing stuff, it's cars, hence the name.
Okay.
Right? Like I grew up in a hot rod shop.
Yeah.
But like the Northgate Mall, which is very close to closing down at this point.
No, it's getting bigger.
Well, they're building stuff around it, but the mall portion inside is dying. It's all the external portions of it that are surviving and doing well.
Yeah, but I forget what it was. Like I was reading something about the Northgate Mall that they're like building all of the stuff around it first. And then they're going to demolish the inside and rebuild the inside.
But are they going to keep it a mall, or are they going to do it like Redmond Town Center kind of?
I'm not 100% sure. I think Northgate Mall, because the Northgate Mall is the first mall with a closed roof.
Yeah.
Like it's the first one. So I think that they want to maintain that.
Yeah, that would be
so they
interesting.
could probably still be like the record holder of
the interesting story there is that when my dad was a kid, I think he was like 12 at the time. All of the original paint striping and like little turtles for the parking lot and parts of I-5 were him and his dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
I've done some of that
weird tie-ins to like, so you know exactly what they're doing. Except in the old school, he was literally hanging off the side of a truck manually with a brush, painting the road, and then later you have like a little thing where you just push a knob, it drops the tar, put the little turtle in, and keep going. All
hilarious.
Super manual back in. I think it was very late 50s when they did that. When the mall was put up. So
it was 50s, 60s, something like that. Yeah,
So
it's been there. Like the Northgate Mall is the first mall that has a closed roof.
Yeah, it's the first enclosed mall.
Like the first enclosed. The first whoever came up with it was the first guy to go like, we could have a bunch of stores and a roof. Imagine that. Wait for the future, boy.
In rainy Seattle, where you don't want to walk in the rain all the time.
It's almost a natural progression of like, do we have roofs? Yes, we've invented those. Do we have stores? Yeah, we got those too.
What if we had a enclosed walkway between the stores?
With a roof?
You're a genius.
Like, oh my God.
What do we call it? A mall.
I'm going to call it the food court. It's got Sbarro in it.
Sweet blessed food court.
P.F. Chang's.
Things that you only see in a food court and never anywhere else as an individual
like
business.
Sbarro, you never see a Sbarro. I've never seen a Sbarro that was not in a mall.
I can think of a bunch of stuff that's like that, though. Like there's that place that does cheesesteaks called Charlie's. Like I've only ever seen them in mall food courts. I've never seen them anywhere else. Now, granted, I haven't done any like big dives on the East Coast or anything, but
yeah, even like the deep dive of like driving the entire East Coast to see if you can find one just by looking out the window.
Yeah.
Just imagine if there was like a thing that you could like look up those things.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
That would be crazy.
What would you
Like if
call
there
it,
was
though?
like a series of tubes, right, around that like had information in it.
But you can't just dump stuff on this, right?
Well, it's got to be open source so that everybody can just put whatever they want onto the series of tubes.
So it's not a big truck. For those who aren't following along, there's an old senator who tried to explain the internet and clearly had no clue what he was talking about.
No
and
idea.
It eventually got remixed into like a techno track, which is hysterical to listen to.
Yeah.
Because it's just this guy in his like late 60s trying to explain the internet who has no clue what's going on.
No clue. Clueless. Just lost in a sea.
It's just
of
like the former president who, referred to Google as the Googles.
the Googles. The Googles. Right?
Yeah.
That's weird. There's just some ridiculous people around. I don't know how. I guess my question is like, it's not that the ridiculous people are around. It's like, how did they get to be to a point where they like can affect other people's lives? That's the thing that gets me. It's like
we know
it's
the
not
real,
so
we know
much-
the real answer.
it's not even like the political debate or anything like that. It's just like, how did anybody allow these idiots to get into, like, you're going to write laws for people? Like, you don't even know what the Googles is? Like, how could you, what? How could you make a law? I mean, it's like you might be an expert about something, but it's completely lost with their ability to communicate about things that are very contextual with
Yeah.
today. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like, and that's the thing that gets me is almost it's like sometimes these people, I see them pop up and it's like, maybe they're an expert in like grading railroads or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe there is some kind of expertise there, but it just does not seem to be apparent in the way that the U.S. is going these days. That's for sure. You know, it's like, what's the old Al Gore? Like, yeah, I invented the internet. You know, and you're like,
Well, that's okay. So that quote is always taken way out of context because before the part I invented
I'm
the
making
internet,
fun of Al Gore because it's easy to make fun of Al Gore.
I know, but
you
before the part where he says I invented the internet, I was like, there is the exact phrase "in a way," because he is the spearhead of the legislation that created the internet as we know it.
Right. Yeah, he's just the guy who pushed the bill through.
And the full quote is like, so in a way, I invented the internet. And it's said in jest if you look at when he first said it. But everybody has
trust it.
ripped on him for an eternity.
Still
for
don't
it.
trust it. It's part of the zeitgeist now.
Oh, God.
Gonna use zeitgeist. Anyhow, so Hogshead.
Oh,
we can
got
actually
it.
start measuring our aquariums via Hogshead.
I'm
This is
listening.
something that we could do. Because I've got it right here. So, eventually, a hogshead of wine came to be 63 U.S. gallons. So, if you got like a 60-gallon cube, that's one hogshead.
Okay, so
While a hogshead of beer is 64 gallons. So, it's 64 gallons, pretty much where it's at. So, 250 liters.
So basically,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest rainbow tank is 2 hogshead.
Yeah. Yeah, so you got a 120, 2 hogshead.
Nice.
You got 240. I got a 4 hogshead tank out in the garage right now.
That's impressive.
Out in the fish. 4 hogshead, bro.
That's a lot.
It sounds all crazy when you say 240.
Yeah.
It's like 240 gallons. Like, oh my God. But it's a lot more fun if you say 4 hogshead. So apparently the hogshead is a little bit confusing
Uh-oh.
because over the years it has definitely changed. It's still a U.S. measurement, though. Let me see.
Has chat been driven crazy yet? That's my question.
Like,
What are they babbling about?
well, it's basically just it's Big D Smoke kind of talking to himself. There's Ricardo. Says,
Ricardo.
Charlie's is
Talk
good,
about
but I prefer Jersey Mike subs.
Oh, I definitely prefer Jersey Mike's. I'm just stating that Charlie's is something I've only ever seen in a mall food
Look,
court.
I will say this: a really good cheesesteak. Yeah, that's my jam.
It's also not here in Washington.
Like, oh no, there are some good ones.
Well, okay, so like the best one that I personally in Washington There's two. So in Eastern Washington, in Yakima, there's this place called Sarducci's.
Oh yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. And then over here, I would say Tats Deli in Seattle.
Tats
is amazing.
Tats is the jam.
And I just want to mention
but you don't necessarily want to be there for the cheesesteak, though.
I don't know. I love it.
Because if you're going to
it
Tats,
so
you want
much.
the Tatstrami.
I'm not a big pastrami guy though, so
Yeah, but that's their
I know
that's their thing.
Well,
if you want
they're
a
New
Philly,
Jersey guys.
If you want a Philly, you got to go to Colosi's.
I don't know that I've been to Colosi's. Where's Colosi's?
There's one in sort of the Soto. Like, there used to be one right near Tats, but they moved it down to Soto. There's Colosi's right there. It's like, what's the cross street? East Marginal. So it's like, it's even more south than Soto, basically.
Yeah,
But like, it's the bottom end of the Soto district in Seattle.
So for those that aren't in the Seattle area, Tats is just New York style deli. A bunch of guys that were from New Jersey that came out here.
Mm-hmm.
But what kind of makes them infamously entertaining is they have a webcam you can view to see how long the line is to determine whether or not you want to go now or wait.
Oh yeah.
And the answer is there's always a line. Just go anyway. if you're in the mood for Tats, just go and wait. You're just gonna. There's always.
You're just gonna.
be a line.
Yeah. You're just going to be going and waiting.
But it's worth it.
Unless you're somebody like me and knows a bunch of people that opened that place, and then you can just be like, "Hey, man, I'm coming by."
So we're going to Tats. Is that what you just said?
Well, Jen is one of the people that opened that place, which she moved to California and is a sign maker down there. But yeah, she was one of the integral people, who she's not an owner, but she was like the manager of the place for a really long time, like the boss running it for him. And so back in the day, because I ran a bunch of restaurants down in Pioneer Square.
Right.
And I was in that area when they opened that place.
Nice.
And I knew all the people around down there and stuff. So, it was literally like, I'd go up there and just like skip the line and go up to the front and be like, hey, I need a couple sandwiches, one for me, one for John, one for whatever, and then be like, yeah, cool. Just come back in like 10 minutes. And we'll have it all packed up for you. It's like, okay, cool.
Nice.
So I wasn't getting stuff for free or nothing. It was just like, I'm cutting the line.
Yeah.
Just to come by and be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Just saying hi to my buddies over here. Like, here's our order. Like, yeah, that's what we need. Like, oh, cool, we'll get you. But Tats by far, like, if you're visiting Seattle, I would put Tats high up on the list of
They've got a truck now.
Going there.
They got a truck that they move around like a standard food truck.
It's not the same.
I know, but it's kind of nice.
You need that essence. You need that essence of Pioneer Square.
You have to wait in line.
I mean, it's on Yesler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And getting there and getting parking is a nightmare.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
But it's worth it.
You just have to ghost ride your whip, Like you just let it roll down the street, jump out, and let it go. And just hopefully find your car later.
Joel will now be referred to as Lil Oscen.
It's not safe, and it's not a good deal. I wouldn't do that. I wonder if this is actually working to... I wonder if this is broadcasting to Patreon. I never checked. If it was actually working or not.
I hope. I think somebody in the chat mentioned that it was working on Patreon.
I saw somebody said that it was. I think it was Preston. I think Preston said it was working.
Nice.
So... But I don't know. I haven't verified for myself.
The American puffer god. Or at least for the Scootin' Fruity.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems like Alyssa is the only one that's commenting on it, but it doesn't look like it's streaming to Patreon. Oh, but you can just click the link and it takes you... Oh, no, you can... It actually... Okay, hold on, stop. Okay. It's actually streaming on Patreon. There we go.
Nice.
Verified. Probably just doubled up on the audio there for a second, but that's life. While we try this out. This is actually our first time of kind kind of testing this out to see how this goes. So we're kind of fast and loose today. We don't really have like a whole lot of topics, kind of just Bentley and I just talking about whatever.
But if you'd like us to talk on a topic.
Yeah. I mean, obviously.
This is kind of your show.
This is sort of our first, like, giving it a shot.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out what we're doing.
And,
more importantly, we got to figure out the software side behind it to make sure it functions correctly.
it's the software thing, man. Like, it's just.
Because just streaming to YouTube is not terribly hard, but.
Yeah, like, just streaming to YouTube is painful enough. It's not terribly hard, but it's painful enough that like, oh, I didn't click.
Especially in the as someone who doesn't stream very often, the classic studio versus the new studio setting up live streams.
Oh, it's 100% completely different. I have no idea. I have no idea how.
Which for those of you who don't deal with the studio, good on you, because it's such a headache. Like the studio beta that we have to deal with is. It's pretty looking, but functionality not so great.
So people are kind of like, they're commenting in the chat a little bit right now. Yeah, no chat on Patreon. Yes, for this, for today's incarnation, yes, there is no chat on Patreon. But we're testing this part of the software, and then we have additional software that is going to be coming into play for the next time we do this.
It'll be a slow scale up. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. It's just
we gotta test it a piece at a time.
I have to integrate everything and make sure that it works, so that at the very least, like if something breaks, then it's like, oh, that's the spot. You know what I mean? Because if I try to integrate everything all at the same time, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't work, then you have to take everything apart and try and figure out like, okay, where's the spot? And unfortunately, me not being a software guy. Necessarily, like I know a little bit about software. I really would not even call myself even average, below average. It's like if I don't know what to even point at.
Tell me more about your software issues.
Oh well, I'm an idiot
with the professional software tester sitting across from you.
I mean, but you know what I'm saying though. But I'm saying that I'm an idiot.
I do it for a living, and I still have troubles with it.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is that like I'm saying that I'm an idiot, but if I don't know where, like the problem is with the software.
Oh yeah, it's
so like let's say if there's a problem with Patreon, right? At least I can email Patreon and go like, hey, what's the deal right here? Why is this not working? Then they could email me back or something and go like, oh, you got to do this thing, right? And it's like, okay, well, if something's wrong with XSplit, I can email XSplit and go like, dude, what's the deal? Like, why isn't this working?
Yeah.
And the next software that's coming in is Crowdcast. So I'm all signed up for that and everything, and that'll be the next integration step, which is actually kind of cool because we can even bring in, like if people have a phone or if people have a camera and everything's set up where they're at, we can actually add them to the live stream.
Oh, remotely?
Like if Big D Smoke, Dennis, like if he was like, oh, I have a question I want to ask, he could literally request to join the stream. And then we can approve it on our end.
Yeah.
And then he could be like on his phone like, hey guys, I was wondering about like my fish got butt fungus, and you'd be like, all right, cool.
Huh.
And so we can do some of that, and there will be a live chat on Patreon moving forward, so that people can actually just go in there and chat just like you're on YouTube. So we're going to be doing that on Patreon as Bentley comes over. We're going to do that, and then we're also going to we're basically going to film it, while we're here. So obviously the cameras are going to be in different spots and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to film it, record it, and then actually I have a guy who's going to help edit it. So he's actually going to take just the whole hour or whatever and just cut it into clips, and then we'll put those onto YouTube so that people with really, really short attention spans.
Yeah, well, it also lets us have very topic-centered shorter clips as opposed to the entire cast.
Yeah, those people that have like no attention span.
Well, it's like one of the things that I think when you guys were doing Real Fish Talk, toward the very end that was really smart is when we started getting clips that came out of Real Fish Talk. Like I think Gary Lang was the first one that you guys did that with.
Mm-hmm.
And that I personally thought was like the best way to hook people who maybe can't, for one reason or another, whether it's attention span or just their schedule never allows them to sit and watch the whole thing.
Right.
The clips is a really good way to catch up on, the meat and potatoes of what they probably want to pay attention to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's two different avenues of like, well, maybe you watch YouTube for entertainment, or maybe you watch Netflix for entertainment, or that kind of stuff. Oftentimes, a lot of people that are driven to YouTube or whatever is because they've Googled something. They've done a Google search like,
Yep.
My fish has a fungus, right? And they're like, they want the most direct answer.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of reading, they end up clicking on YouTube, and they want a direct answer for the thing that they have searched for.
Yeah.
And YouTube has become like the second biggest search. I think like Google's obviously number one, and then YouTube is owned by Google, which is ridiculous. But they're like number two, like the most search.
Well, it's
search engine.
And part of it
the
is
biggest
because
search engine or something.
The redesigns to Google has put YouTube at the forefront of the video results, exactly as we're talking about, where you search, how do I X?
Well, I think that YouTube was like number one or not number one, was like number 2 or number 3 before Google even bought it.
Really?
Just because there's just that many people on YouTube going like, what's a this thing? What's a that thing?
It makes sense. People.
How do I miter joint? Like, how do I?
We're really visual creatures. If someone's going to show us a video, it's easier for us to digest it than it is to read a piece of paper that tells you how to do it.
For some people.
Most people.
And
Most
like
people.
Robots.
You just got to program them.
Robots. AI, bro. I'm excited about the AI. Actually, I was talking, as you guys know, we have some new art pieces coming to the show, which we're going to be up on the wall on Friday, which is yesterday, but that didn't happen yet because I didn't get them until Thursday night at like late, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore, guys. I have to go to sleep. It was literally like I got to that point on Thursday. It was like 11:50, I think, something like that. I found out a friend of mine was dying. My mom had to come here with her husband to stay so that they could go to the hospital to find out what was going on, like all that stuff. I got up at 5 in the morning that day, sat in 3 hours of traffic to get up to work, and I worked all the way until like 8 o'clock at night. And then it was, 2 hours to get home. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Woe is me, right? Whatever. It was just a long day. But it got to the point, like, it was like 11:50, and I was just like, what? I'm like literally like, oh, did I fall asleep for 3 seconds? It was kind of one of those things. It was like, yeah, I have to just go lay down for a while until it's tomorrow. I was just like, I can't take it anymore. Yeah, it was kind of weird. So we didn't get the art up. That's a really long story just to say I didn't get the art up on the wall, but it'll be there on Monday. I have time on Monday to get them hung up on the wall, and it'll be pretty exciting. Those mandalas are dope.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Luckily, Bentley gets to check them out in person. There's 3 up there.
Ooh.
You've seen one online on the internets, but there's 2 more.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's 3 of them, and they're quite good. Jody's awesome. So, and Jody, I'm trying to figure out a way that's comfortable for her to like do some video of her work. She's a really like kind of what's the word? Like just private person, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So we're trying to actually work out like how to do some videos of like her work and stuff to help like promote it and get it out there, without being too like, hey, it's me. Hey,
yeah, it's like some over the shoulder work or something like that, where it's focused more on the workspace as opposed to the person.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, we'll figure it out. I think in time lapse though, that's going to be the deal.
Yeah, that's most art I've ever seen is all time lapsed.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Eurobeth says, YouTube is great. You can learn how to change headlights and taillights on your vehicle, replace window motors and clips, a new knitting stitch, and watch fishies.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty legit. Want to make a plant cuttings grab bag, low cost prize. You have some cool stuff there. I do actually. I have 2 prize packs that are going to be going out, and I feel awful about having not sent those out yet. It's just been a wonderful thunderdome of stupidity on my behalf. Like, first things first, like I got all this stuff together, and I was like, I got all the boxes, right? I got styrofoam and I'm ready to go, all that stuff. And then the boxes aren't big enough, so I had to go get different boxes. Like an idiot. So I went and go get different boxes. And all the plants that I had them floating in a tank that I turned the light off. And the light was off for like 5 days or something like that, 6 days. So it was like total blackout on pretty delicate plants for like a long period of time. So yeah, they all sort of melted away.
Yeah.
So now I'm actually going through the process of retrimming all the plants and getting all the cuttings together so I can send those out.
It's funny you mentioned that. I have a very similar story. So I did July 1st. I did like my first shipping for a long time because it's really hard for me to ship.
It is a nightmare.
So I was up and down in my fish room at 4:30 in the morning. And I did not get to the post office with everything until 12:30.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the amount of stuff I had to pack, the number of fish I had to catch. And for one of the people, like, the last thing I saved was this plant order I had. And one of the things that was supposed to go to the guy was some Pogostemon octopus.
Okay.
Well, I just yanked all of my Pogo octopus out of my guppy mansion because I was going to replant it all because it had gotten a little too out of wire, kind of needed to just be refreshed. It'd been like a year and a half. It was time, right? Well, I had it stored in a bucket near the window.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, all right, there's enough light. It's Pogo. It's pretty bulletproof. And I pull stems out. The stems are perfectly healthy, but the second I start pulling them up through the water, every leaf just falls right off.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh, no. He only wanted 2 plants, and one was Pogo octopus. So I reached out to the guy, and it took us a couple days to go back and forth just because he's a little slow on email, but that's fine. And just kind of figured out a replacement plant for him. Sent him some extra stuff as an apology because he didn't get it as fast as he wanted.
Yeah.
But, found a suitable, because I just told him, I was like, listen, the stems are perfectly healthy, but I would never want to send plants to someone in this condition because you're going to have to regrow them. It can be finicky to do it right. Here's some options. Just tell me which you would prefer. Or I can just refund you money. Either way, I don't care. I just want to make sure that you get what you want and you're happy.
Yeah.
And I feel like an idiot. So, and it's so funny because they'd only been in there for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I've had Pogo octopus in a bucket for a week and not had problems before.
I've
this stuff is like bulletproof. Usually.
It's super weird. Like I've had plants in buckets for a month, and then but fine.
Yeah.
And just a little while ago, like I had a bunch of plants like in a bucket, and I left them in there for 2 days, and they all melted away. I was like, how is this even possible? Like it's in my fish room, the temperature's correct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the same. It's sitting in my warm room.
What is going on?
So the temperature is going to sit at like 78 the whole time.
Yeah. It's too hot, maybe? Is it maybe too hot? I don't know.
Well, the
but
tanks are all that temperature.
It's super crazy. Like I'm just like, I don't understand what happened. Like every once in a blue moon, and I wish I knew what the mechanism was because I would eliminate it. Like if I knew what the mechanism was of those plants like melting off in a bucket like that. Yeah. Because I've literally had plants in buckets just in the fish room for months on end, and they're just in there growing and being fine. Like
the
not
only
even
thing
a
that
problem.
I could think of in kind of hindsight, and it took me until like half a week later, is I wonder if because there was no flow, no oxygenation whatsoever, that the night cycle in that lower light, it kind of half starved its foliage out, so it pulled that back to keep the stem alive.
Yeah, it could be.
Had I just run an air stone, would it have been enough? It's like the thing that went through my head.
It might, but it's almost one of those things like you start
Weird
adding
science experiments,
adding an air stone and a light and everything. It's like, well, you just have a tank that's a bucket.
Yeah, I got a 5-gallon bucket tank for 3 days.
5-gallon bucket tank. Yeah, it's like. So
maybe I should have fertilized the water, and then I should have done this, and then I should.
Yeah, and you're like, now I'm just maintaining an aquarium that I can't see in except from the top. This is weird. Yeah. So
It's a micro pond.
it's a micro pond. It's what? How much? How many hogshead is that? One. So what is that? Like
1/12?
1/12 of.
1/13 almost.
So what is that? 7%. 7% of a hogshead.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Is that right? 21.6. 7. It's like 7.8% or something like that.
Yeah.
Let me see.
It's not very high.
Let me think. Let me see here. 7.
Math.
Let's say 7.7 times 12. Oh, that's way off. I'm a million miles off. That's not 7, right? Well, because if it's 60 gallon, right? Yeah, I'm a million miles off.
Well, if you want to do percentage, you would just do 5/63 or 64, whichever hogshead you want to use, whether you're doing it based on wine or ale, right?
Yeah, because it's 5 over. That's right. Yeah. 5. Let's do 5 over 64%. I know as a percentage. There we go. Oh, 7.8.
Bam.
Fuck, I was right. Hot dang. I'm excited.
Math.
Maths. That feels good.
This is the most random stream I think we've ever done.
Yeah, probably. Why not? It has to do with buckets and hogsheads. All important things. So let's see here. Let's see what we got out of the old chatteroony here. Chira says, I run a nano USB air pump for Rockpal's 300-watt solar generator. Wait. I run a nano USB air pump from a Rockpal's 300-watt solar generator, which is $270, charged from a 100-watt rich solar poly solar panel, $82.
Okay, I get what's going on.
Connected with 50 feet of AWG10 with MC4 connectors, which was $52. It runs everything 24/7 now, including my 150-gallon pond out back.
Nice.
That's actually not bad.
That's a lot of sweet solar gear.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, where do you live? Because here that would not do that for you.
It wouldn't, yeah.
Because our rate of sunlight is horrible
Well,
compared to like
I forget,
California,
what was the
Arizona.
panels? I remember I looked this up a while ago. So it's like panel. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to look this up for a second. Solar panel needs for Washington, and then I gotta think how much amperage. I think I'm like 35 amps service. I think.
This is way more complicated.
What's that?
It's way more complicated than my brain wants to handle.
Well, it's not. It's actually pretty easy because of the internet nowadays.
Yeah.
That it's actually fairly easy. Here we go. Solar panel calculator. There it is. And I think last time I did this, it imported it. Oh, here we go. So,
I mean, if we're gonna go on the green energy kick, I'm gonna propose a really crazy thing to you here soon.
what's that?
So, have you heard of Turbulent? It's a company out in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
They do these small-scale turbine engines for generating hydroelectric power.
Okay.
So they're built to create a small kind of like runoff off the side. So if you have a stream here, you build a little niche here and you drop it in. And they're not very big. Like the engine would be about 2/3 the size of the table space between the two of us.
Okay.
And they generate like 15 kilowatts of power continuously. So the question that I had in my head was, if you were like eccentric millionaire rich and you wanted to build a lazy river system with these engines so that it would power the lazy river and then also power your home, how much power would it take to push enough flow to power those turbines? Like, at what rate would you need to pump?
Oh, like how much water you got to move?
How much water would you have to move? and how much power would that take? So would you need 15 kilowatts of power just moving water, and then subsequent engines to power yourself? Because like the crazy thing is these units are not very expensive.
Okay.
The cost of the unit plus installation for I think it's a 10 kilowatt model is something like only like $10,000 in the grand scheme of things, which your average U.S. home uses between 7 and 8 kilowatts of power.
Right.
So if you lived on like a reasonable river, and they don't have to be very deep, that's the important thing. It just needs a certain rate of flow to generate the amount of power they want.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think
It's a
I've
really
seen
cool
this,
company.
Like, they let me see.
And it's actually legit science, unlike, say, solar roadways.
Yeah. Solar roadways is just...
But they have some of these running down in, I think it's like Peru or something like that, where they have a few farmhouses running off of these things. And the entire farm is basically powered off this generator, where now they have electricity for a couple families in this big farm.
Okay, yeah, I saw... Actually, yeah, I saw...
They're really, it's really
Turbulent
interesting.
hydro is what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's...
And they're out of Belgium.
Sorry.
Antwerpian. But yeah, I saw some of these. They had installed these
They're very neat.
Portland.
Did they install them in Portland?
Yeah, they actually put them into the
Columbia?
the water mains, like the real big, the big water mains, the 6 foot ones.
Oh, I think that's slightly different.
Well, it's just turned on its side.
Yeah,
because the water flow is going.
There was
this
a
way.
different company that was specifically
it might be
specifically doing that.
Well, what I'm saying is that it might be a different
but it's the same
company,
it's the
but
same
it's the
concept.
same concept.
Yeah,
It's turning a turbine that is.
It would be.
It's essentially reducing
moving water anyway.
Yeah, you basically are taking a big fan and reducing down to run the generator. Essentially, it's like you're just gears, man, gears. Yeah, so here it is for. Oh, they got one. They got some locations in Chile and Indonesia now.
I thought it was Chile.
Chilean. I want to go wherever this picture was taken as their background, though. On their website, I want to go there. That looks cool.
Well, it's one of those things when a friend had.
It's probably taken from Mount Rainier or something.
Showed me those a couple of years ago. It was like, how could you get it so self-sustaining that it created its own flow? So if you had enough land, you could just build your own, like, effectively lazy river.
I think you could
self-powered.
I think you could, like, if you were. So, like, the reason they put these in Portland is because they're using the water towers.
Right.
So if people out there are familiar, like, one of the big reasons that water towers are implemented is that you pump the water up there once, and then everything is, because of water tension, it's essentially siphoning, but with that much power, right? So it's like if you have 100,000 gallons suspended up in the air, times 8.2, so you have 180 or 120,000 pounds worth of water pulling on the water over there. That siphon is essentially never going to break.
There's actually a reasonably sized water tower not far from my house.
Right. But that's why you reduce it all the way down. You end up with 70 pounds, 70 psi at your spigot at your house.
Yep.
Right. It's because you're reducing down this gigantic water volume, which 100,000 gallons is way too small for one of those. I think one of them in at the top of Nike Hill when I was there, I think they said that they have like 12 million gallons or something like that in that one there, which I think is even small in comparison to a lot of them. But either way,
that's a lot for us aquarists, though.
Well, for us, that's awesome.
Could you imagine a 12 million gallon pond?
But what I'm saying is that, like, I think you might be able to, like, obviously if you're a super rich guy or whatever, you might be able to, because you would have to just expel the energy to pump it up into your own water tower, right? And then as it drains down, it's pushing that turbine, and then if you had it draining into the same thing where it was drawing from, it would hypothetically keep going, right?
Yeah, the whole whole goal is just to build a loop.
As long as you had no air in the system, it would just keep going, right? I think. I mean,
Science.
The only downside is that water would stay out of nature's system. You know, like if you kept it in that, it's essentially, well, I guess maybe, yeah, because like just as long as you had it like this, right? So you dump it back into the same thing, and as long as you left that like open air, it wouldn't be a total waste because you would get evaporation and then just have to replenish with water as the water level dropped. You probably could do that. As long as you had the power to push it up in the first place.
Yeah.
And all the power it costs to build all the equipment and the water tank and blah, 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 all that stuff. If you took that into consideration, maybe it would be a net zero or maybe it would be a net positive. I don't know. It'd be hard to figure out. It's way out of my price range. We can't even get a makerspace going.
It's not nowhere near mine. I got like $30.
We'll get a makerspace going someday. I got $50. We'll get there. We'll rub them together.
I can spare like 20.
We'll rub these monies together and they'll make babies. That's not crass. That's from It's a Wonderful Life. You seen It's a Wonderful Life, right?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Long time ago. Remember when there's a run on the bank, right?
Yeah.
And then people come to take all the money out. And then he's like, well, come on, Mrs. Wilbur. How much money do you really need? And she's like, I got to get my 10-penny groceries, you know, and all that. He's like, okay, well, we'll give you $5. But then they get down to the end, and the bank doesn't go bankrupt because they have the $2 bills left.
Yeah.
And then he, like, dances them in there and puts them in the safe. And he's like, hopefully they'll make babies. Which maybe is why we're not so old-timey anymore. Maybe.
Well, there was a time when we backed all of our currency with gold.
That was a jet flying overhead.
I don't know if it's coming through on the mic, but
Maybe it might. It does every once in a while. If I close the window, you can't hear it, but I like to have the window open.
yeah, there's a little bit of breeze.
Yeah, why not?
It's nice.
It's life, bro.
It's nice.
And this is the shade side of the building over here. So it actually always is just kind of a cool breeze coming in, you know, living the dream, right? Hex Tank Apologist says, Bentley, I enjoyed your video on the Tidal filter.
That was this morning.
Was that today?
That's some dedication.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Tried out the 55, but it was too noisy for my taste. Do you like the Tidal, that filter?
So I think there's some conditions that need to apply. Like, you need to be relatively diligent about your water level in your tank.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's actually really quiet.
Yeah, because there's that little, like...
There's the skimmer portion up top. So
yeah.
And somebody put this in a comment. I didn't discuss it, even though I do know about it. There's technically 3 points in which the Tidal pulls water from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the weird thing.
There's the skimmer, there's the down tube, and then there's actually an underside in that box where it pulls water from as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't pull a lot of its water volume from that point. It's mostly from the tube and the skimmer section.
Mm-hmm.
And if the skimmer section doesn't have enough water, it gets extremely noisy.
Yeah.
Right? It's got that horrible sucking noise that I will not subject people to.
Right.
Like, I didn't even put it in my video because it's just so obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're diligent about your water level, I think, depending on your circumstance, it's better than the AquaClear.
Okay.
And there's some reasons
I messed with them up at Corey's a bunch, and I was just kind of like...
I haven't...
yeah.
The only thing I don't have experience with is I don't have experience with the 35 and the 55.
Okay.
So I have a 75 and I have the 110s, and I love the 110s. I think those things are amazing. But there's some small downsides too. Like, the filter box is weird. Its design is round and has that stupid cutout. So practicality of like simplistic filling it and maintaining it is a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to like cut your own inserts or something like that, you have to cut to fit them.
Okay.
And I was doing that for a while, and I've just stopped recently because I'm tired of the amount of work it takes to fit those. But I think it has, for my purposes at least, because I like rainbows. Rainbows like flow.
Okay.
It's a higher flow filter than the AquaClear.
Oh, okay.
It generates
I see
more
what you mean.
flow.
I see what you're saying.
Not by much, but it's enough because it's the the outlet is a much thinner space, right? You've got that big wide blade on an AquaClear 110 of water falling into your tank, where it's much more narrow and it churns a lot harder in the Tidal.
Yeah. Okay.
I also like the fact that the profile of the box, the media box, is not as large front to back, so it can fit in a smaller space, so you don't have to have your tank quite as far away. What the heck?
My donut alarm went off.
Donut alarm?
Sorry. I didn't realize that was still set. It just happenstance.
So I think it's one of those things where you need to weigh what you want. Because there's also some aesthetics of the Tidal that are just god-awfully ugly.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
I have to say, like, I still, like, I messed with those Tidals, and I kind of was like, I don't see why I wouldn't just buy an AquaClear.
Sure.
Personally.
So
now, I don't know. Like, there may be some uses out there, some use case for certain people that are like, wow, I really like this thing. In my takeaway was kind of like, I'll just buy an AquaClear. Even though the AquaClears, I do have to admit,
it's like a 30-year-old design at this point.
It's yeah.
And yet,
so boring.
Still a champion.
It's like the most boring thing ever. I'm like, I've had so many AquaClears over the years.
Function over form, baby.
Well, I'm not excited. I'm not excited. I mean, come on. We are Americans, right?
Yeah, we need that glitz and that glamour.
We do need some fanciness in our lives sometimes.
I think it's very. I joked with Corey recently that, basically, when are you going to make the Aquarium co-op hang on back?
Yeah.
So that I can, 1, sit with you and design it correctly, and 2, so that we can just soul crush every other hang on back on the market.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not hard. The differences in what those 2 filters have that could make the best hang on back on the market.
Right.
I talked a little bit about Dean. Dean and I had some engineering concepts that would make it would just shatter the hang on back market.
Yeah, I don't know who would produce it though. Honestly, I don't know who.
China.
Well, they're all made in China already, but I'm just wondering who would produce it and allow essentially like a cornering of the market. That's really the issue, I think. From my perception of dealing with those companies and stuff, it's like they don't want to make a big leap in releasing what would be considered like a positive technology. Because they're like, oh, well, then no one will ever buy any of the new stuff. Yeah. It's like, oh, no one's going to buy anything with the racing stripes on it. And you're like, oh, cool. I guess make 100 million of them then? I don't know.
Made in America, baby. It's time. It's time.
Well,
bring those jobs back. Like every politician promises but can never do.
Those jobs don't exist here because robots took over. It's automated,
I have no clue what you're talking about. I don't work in automation and machine learning or anything like that.
Yeah, of course you do. You're Satan. No, but like a lot of those jobs nowadays are. I mean, whether people want to admit it or not, like most of them are automated.
Yeah, no. Where there were 50 people doing the job, there's now 5, and a bunch of robots.
Yeah.
And your job is to oversee the robots so that they don't fail, and to maintain the quality standard.
Yeah. Well, I was having a conversation with somebody recently that was asking, like, well, if we're not going to be doing a lot of manufacturing in the United States anymore, what are we going to do, like as people? And it's like, well, really got to figure out how to do the kind of stuff that requires human thought. That's really the thing. It's like do something that's creative, do something that is
also from on that front, just as someone who sees a lot of that industry up close all the time. The things that automation will not be able to do reliably in probably the next 20 to 30 years are things like refrigerator or air conditioner repair. Things that require fine-tuned movement in smaller spaces that just human hands are better at.
Right.
And there are some things in auto manufacturing where just human hands are better at it than a machine is.
It's true. I don't argue
going
against
to be able
that.
to do for a while.
But one of the big things with automation is that replacement has trumped repair. And not to say Donald Trump, but it's trumped.
Yeah.
You know, replacing something instead of repairing it has jumped over repairing. You know, it's like you just replace it with something that's $180 versus repairing it, and it's going to cost $350.
Well, some of the bigger stuff, like if you have an air conditioner, right? Replacing an air conditioning unit is not cheap. You know, it's several $1,000s. Where your once a year maintenance is maybe $160 or whatever.
Yeah,
that's something that human beings need to do for foreseeably probably the next 20 years at a minimum.
Yeah. No, I'm not arguing against that.
There's other stuff like the car industry is slowly seeing the brunt of a lot of this, but part of it is the mechanical labor to repair vehicles is still something that human hands are better at and will be for a while. And it's some of the stuff like that. I mean, it's not necessarily these are the only ones, but these are a lot of examples. Also, if you just take some appreciation in old world craftsmanship and like furniture, you have many an artisan that is out there doing good work.
Yeah, it's true.
Good solid wood furniture, not as cheap IKEA nonsense anymore.
Well, it's true. That's what I'm saying. Like, if people should be definitely looking at being more engaged in the creative process of actually making something, as opposed to just working somewhere. Like, and that's honest, because the replace has gone past the repair. Like, it really has. And cars is going to be the real eye opener. Honestly, like selling cars, there's not going to be anybody that sells cars anymore.
No, Tesla's already working on getting rid of that.
And they deliver themselves. Like, that's going to be weird. That's maybe 10 years down the road, but you literally would go on Tesla's website and be like, I want this car, I want it this color, I want these options, I want this stuff, and they make it, and it drives itself to your house.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, there's my car outside, it just got delivered by itself, right? And then, not to mention the fact that, let's say you crash your car, right? It gets wrecked, it gets totaled, it gets picked up by a tow truck that is a self-driving tow truck, right? That gets put up on a flatbed and drives itself to the repair place.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, the replacement car shows up. That's going to be the weirdest thing, honestly, is that you get in a car crash, and then, let's say you have insurance, right? And they have a recording of the accident, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it's not even just a video camera. It's LiDAR. It's all that stuff of exactly what happened, right? That gets submitted to the insurance company. It gets essentially, scanned and approved, right? However, by AI. Yeah. It's not even a person.
Yep.
AI goes, okay, this person's not at fault. That person is at fault. We charge their insurance. That insurance sends the payment to Tesla. Tesla sends you the new car. A Tesla tow truck picks up your broken one and self-drives it back to the place. And then they automatically take it apart and recycle all the parts that they could use out of your old car.
The scary part about that is
bizarre.
Realistically speaking, that's 10 years away.
It's 10 years away. Yeah.
So
I mean, just imagine going onto Amazon and just one-clicking a car.
If you want to be really terrified, right? If you work in art and you don't do physical art, if you're a graphic designer,
oh, you're screwed.
Or you work in the gaming industry doing graphic design, there's some of it that will still be around, but my job right now is literally designing stuff around visual processing machine learning.
Oh yeah, which is crazy.
I am.
No, I mean it's crazy
that's the most I can tell you without breaking an NDA. But
right.
My job is literally going to eliminate graphic designers in probably 5 to 10 years. In mass. Now, not necessarily all of them,
Right.
We will still need people who do a lot of the initial character design. But
Oh yeah. That's like
we
my
want
buddy John.
We want
my
an
buddy
explosion
John
to
is the
happen
guy-
here.
Well, it's
AI
like
can do that so much better than a human can.
well, yeah. It's like my buddy John is the guy. So you know the Halo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's the guy that did the Master Chief's helmet and everything, like all of his armor and all that stuff. Like he's the guy who, it's like, oh yeah, that's approved and sent off, which is crazy. But that's kind of the only position that will be left is like, can you come up with an original concept design, right? And then from there, it's just like,
which isn't even
put it into the computer and
original
if
you want to be technical about it. It follows a lot of
a helmet is not like he didn't invent
the
helmet.
design. It follows a lot of the power armor initial designs that were done by Japanese artists in like the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's not 100 years old.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't invent helmets,
But it's the thing is, can you create an iconic image that is nowhere else that can push product X?
Yeah, it's true.
Or be the flagship for product X.
Jets. Speaking of jobs that will be automated soon. Aeroplanes.
Gonna say Boeing's showing that it can't be automated yet.
Well, yeah, it can be automated.
Well,
it's when people interact with the automated
problems
part.
going on with the Max where it's doing stuff very, very wrong.
Well, it's when people interact and try to counter-correct. The plane was already flying itself. Then there's a problem. The overcorrection.
Well, that's not the cause of those crashes.
The 787?
The 737 Max. It's a sensor fault that causes it to go into a dive.
Yes, but it was a well,
it's part of the.
I mean,
anyway, yeah. But
neither of us designed it, but it's because of the reactions of the pilots because of the sensor error.
Well, I can tell you as a tester, they didn't test it very well. Or at least that's what the reports are telling us.
Here's the thing, I don't know, and whether I know or not doesn't matter. Is what I'm saying.
Well, I know the company they hired to write all that software, and they're not very good.
Well, I don't know them. And I don't care.
I do. I worked for them at one point.
But what I do know, is that the big thing that regardless of what Boeing's doing, I don't care what Boeing's doing. Whatever. I don't want to crash and die, obviously, and I don't want anybody else to crash and die. But what the reality is like if you look at our military, the drones.
Oh yeah.
They just fly them around from Colorado. Like.
Come on, man.
It's just somebody sitting behind a computer flying their drone around. It's just, it's Ender's Game. Yeah. Realistically, if you get down to it, it's Ender's Game.
Or if you want to go for like obscure movies, toys.
Oh, yeah.
It's toys.
Well, Ender's Game is a book.
I know, it's older. I'm just saying.
It's a book.
If you want a fun, obscure
It was before movies were invented.
Because right now there's just, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. It's one pilot to one drone. So it's a little more toys.
Yeah.
But eventually it will be Ender's Game.
Well, yeah. No, Ender's Game, there was an individual person flying each one. There's a pilot in each one of those. There's a pilot.
I thought they were controlling multiple. Because I know that like Ender himself, right, is kind of the commander as opposed to
he's the commander.
Strategist.
Yeah. But the underlings underneath him, they're commanding the...
I haven't read this since I was like 13.
Well, they're commanding like the directorial ships or whatever, like the big armada type ships. But all the fighter ships are all manned. So all the fighters are like independently flying around, and then all the people under Ender are actually flying the big ships from like the command center, right? And then Ender is just basically trying to tell everyone what to do all of the time. He's just directing everybody constantly, nonstop, which is weird. But yeah, it's going to be something like that, pretty much. Which just seems stupid to me that you have to find a human to do it at this point. Right? It makes for a better story that they actually have to find a human that can calculate and make decisions rapidly.
Well, as of right now, the human brain still calculates faster than, well, potentially can calculate faster than
So you think.
computers.
So you think. Ooh, speaking of that, did you see the material science thing that came out where they stuck all of the material science papers into AI? Into an AI system?
No.
It's pulling out all of the potential materials that we could use moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they took all of the material science papers ever published, ever. Maybe there's a couple that got lost or whatever, but they took all of those and they put them into machine learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
That correlated. So the only thing that it did is to correlate certain relatable sort of statements about the each material, right?
Okay.
And then combined them, like cross-referenced everything.
Yeah,
and then eventually started coming out with like new materials that we should be creating.
Well, I'm still waiting for graphene and transparent aluminum.
Which is, I think...
I mean, they've
think
created,
AMD...
but it's hard to make them...
Which is what I think
cheap.
AMD has done with the 7-nanometer process. I think that's what they did.
Maybe?
Considering they've gone so far past Intel, who can't even figure out the 10-nanometer process, right? Like, they literally were just like, oh, yeah, 10? Screw that. We're going to 7.
Listen, I cannot approve bad-mouthing Intel.
I'm not bad-mouthing Intel. What I'm saying is...
I currently work for them.
No. I'm not saying Intel's bad.
No.
What I'm saying is that I think what AMD did is they took essentially that material science processes.
No, I wouldn't be surprised.
And stuck it into machine learning. And what they got out of it was, oh, wow, we can just go straight to 7.
Well, also, the company that Intel works with for doing a lot of their manufacturing, some of the struggles that they've been having at 10 nanometer, the other company that AMD works with had just found the solution at 7 nanometer instead.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they were just pushing faster. And
well,
it's very,
that's
very
what I'm
possible
saying
that,
is
they use
that
machine learning to figure a lot of this stuff out. But
yeah.
It's not... Part of the problem is that machine learning is still kind of in its infancy. So it's...
Right.
It's not as...
What machine learning is in its infancy is what we know.
Yeah.
What gets released to the public. Which is typically 7 years later than it actually has been found out.
Yeah. But it's...
So...
It is interesting to see that struggle because now Intel's on the back foot.
Yeah, no. I'm not bad mouthing Intel except for they charge way too much. But the two things I've always bad mouthed Intel about is that their prices are too high, which is an opinion, so whatever. But the main thing that has always pissed me off is that they change their socket what feels like every 15 minutes. They're like, well, now we're on the LGA 1152. And you're like, you were on the 1151 like a minute ago. And they're like, yeah, we don't do that anymore. that was before. So now your socket, now your chip can't move on to a new motherboard or anything like that. And
yeah, whereas AMD is using the same socket.
Yeah, they use
3 generations straight.
For a couple generations. So at the very least, and here's my problem, is that like I have that motherboard over there. That's a great motherboard. It's a X299, which is a great motherboard.
Which is LGA 1133?
No, it's 2011 version 3.
Oh, it's that crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, and that's the problem. Like when I bought that chip, they're like, yeah, we're going to be using that socket for a grip. And they're like, no.
5 minutes later.
Yeah, and then it's like, so now I have computer parts that are legitimately nice and good and totally usable, but I can't get a new chip to put in there. I mean, I can get a new chip. It's just not cost effective. I'm not spending $900 on a 3-year-old CPU.
Free PC, man.
Yeah, they don't have any. I've called.
You sell them your board.
Well, they don't want to buy the board because they don't have any chips.
Oh.
I've called them and been like,
Bummer.
look, give me a call if you get a chip. And they're like, we don't have any in that socket. And I'm like, cool. And then I literally went, oh, do you want to buy the board? And he's like, well, I can't buy the board.
We don't have any of
because
that
I don't
socket.
have anything to go in it. Like, that's rad. Very helpful. Wow, wow, wow. So I've gone back to AMD because
do we have a fish question? I'm just curious.
I don't know. It's the end of the show. That's why we were talking about computers.
Are we at the end of the show already?
Yeah.
Man.
It's the end of the show.
Time flies.
Time flies.
I can keep babbling for a while. I ain't got nothing to do.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Be right back. Got to walk down to the management office and pick up a Floval 3.0 from the co-op. Good. Still the best light around.
Yeah.
No one has a new one out yet that
I had somebody comment to me
surpasses it.
on a video recently that I hadn't looked at the Eheim light, and that I would change my mind if I saw the Eheim power light or whatever the heck it is. And my response to it was basically, yeah, it's not sold in the U.S. It's like, oh, you can get it on this website. It's a German website. It's like, it's not sold in the U.S. Like, I can't compare a light that I can't get a hold of unless I internationally drop ship it. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well start looking. The cost is going to get to the point where I'm looking at a UNS Titan, and I might as well use that stupid crazy light. I was like, the comparison's not accurate. It's like, well, it cost me the same amount to get a Floval light. Like,
it's the big problem. Like normally the pushback I get from people on the Floval 3.0 is either Americans that don't want to spend, or North Americans, I guess.
Yeah.
Mexico, Canada, U.S., whatever.
I feel bad for the guys in Australia.
Like, they're not willing to spend that amount of money.
Sure.
Right. Which the 48-inch one is $180. I'm like, okay, it's not zero, obviously.
It's not cheap.
Then it's not totally cheap.
But it's also not expensive for what you get.
That's what I'm saying. But the pushback I get from isn't necessary. It's either those people in America that are like, I only have $50. And I'm like, save that up a couple more times and get a good light. Yeah. Right. Or the other group of people are like people in Australia where they're like,
you got to pay like $1 million for a Floval light.
It's $500. Yeah. And you're like, what? Turns out the import, export, blah, blah, blah.
Every video I've done lighting, anytime I mention the Floval, I always get at least one comment from an Australian watcher where they're like, unfortunately, and I'm like, yeah, I know it's crazy expensive down there. I just don't ever mention it in a video.
Right. Yeah, it's like it's crazy expensive in some other countries, depending on the import, export, blah, 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 all that tariffs nonsense and all that kind of stuff. But those are the only groups of people I get a pushback from. Either the people that don't want to spend very much money, which is fine. I get it. Like maybe it's a hobby for you and you don't really want to spend that much money. Okay.
There's cheap solutions out there.
There are cheap solutions. They're just not as good.
Yep.
It's just not as good a deal. And no one has come out with a light that is really knocking the socks off, especially at that price point. You know, there are some lights out there that will knock your socks off, but it's the same issue that like people in Australia have, is that it's $700 light, you know, and I need 5 of them for my 240.
Yeah, a great example I have when we were at AGA,
which is more money than my car costs. The car that I drive around, the truck I drive around every day, right?
Yeah,
I could get a new truck.
That's probably more money than my car is currently worth.
I don't know, probably.
My car's old.
Yeah, but we were at the AGA.
Yeah, so when we were at AGA, we had Kessel there, right?
Yeah,
and I went and I talked to the Kessel guy, and I had 2 questions. I was mostly kind of trying to pick a fight, but. It was more like, sometimes you have to like burden, and I mean, they're salespeople, they don't care. It was like, okay, can I control this remotely with an app or Wi-Fi or anything? No. But this one you can. How much does that one cost? This, which was like $300 or something like that for a light that was just coming out.
$399 or something like that, yeah.
And it was like, okay. And he's like, how big's your, and I was like, does this cover the same as the cheapest Kessel, the Tuna Sun, right? He's like, yeah, it covers the same 24 by 24. I was like, okay, so I'd need 6 of these on the project I have in mind. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like versus 4 Fluvals.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like my 240. I mean, that 240 right now, I have 3.0s over it.
Yeah.
That's it. I haven't even put the 4th one on there. I mean,
well,
I will.
even a great example, like Murphy's tank at the co-op.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 4.0s or 3.0s on it.
Yeah.
And that's 360-gallon tank.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And
well,
it's quite nicely lit. It's like it's crazy stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I get people who are on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I first came back to the hobby, I was on a budget.
Yeah, yeah.
And now
and here's the thing. Like, I'm not mad at anybody who's on a budget.
Now I just take a different approach. I just wait longer.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is that, like, if I had advice, it's just save up more money. It's going to be longer. You're going to have to wait.
But it's worth it.
It's worthwhile, and no one else has put anything out that's worthwhile, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Like, obviously, there are other lights out there that do work. Yes, of course. But that's just my opinion, and there might be something out there that I don't know about, and I would love to hear about it if that's the case. But, if you talk about, like, the Kessel lights, yeah, they probably are better to some degree. Yeah, and I mean, but that's the thing. Like, they're wildly more expensive. They're more cumbersome. You have to buy more stuff to hang them.
Yep.
You can't control them via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
And the ones that you can cost
at this point, it better
ton.
be. Do I have this backwards? No, it better be Bluetooth controlled, or get it out of my face.
Yeah. Because
if it's Wi-Fi controlled, I just about want to punch Canon in the face, because some camera I own. What is it? Some camera I own is only Wi-Fi controlled.
Okay.
And I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's only Wi-Fi controlled, which means my phone doesn't work when I connect Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Because now it's connected Wi-Fi to control a thing. So a stupid app, I can't just back out of it and, like, do a time lapse or something. Because as soon as I turn off the Wi-Fi control, it's no longer controlling that camera because it's not Bluetooth.
I don't have that problem with my Sony camera.
No, it's an old camera.
I was gonna say it's got to be older.
Like, so I don't know what camera it is. It's one of my old cameras. I don't know which one it is, but it's some old camera that does that. But, like, the Floval lights would be a good example. Like, you just connect to the Bluetooth through the app. There you go. Turn it on. Start it up. There you go. Or maybe it's that slider. Oh, it's not Canon. It's that slider.
This is Wi-Fi controlled?
Yeah.
It's sitting, like, right in front of me for those in reference.
Yeah, the slider is Wi-Fi controlled. So if you want the slider to work, you have to have a dedicated, like, cell phone to run it. Well, because, like, like I play music over my phone, like, all the time through Bluetooth. And so if the only Wi-Fi signal that is... So my phone is pulling it on Wi-Fi. It's connected via Wi-Fi. It thinks that's where the internet is coming from, essentially. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get any signal to be able to listen to music anymore because it's connected to Wi-Fi, which should be internet signal, which means I can't listen to music while I time-lapse some kind of slow slider pan.
We got this thing going for 30 minutes doing it.
Yeah, it's like I just have to sit here in silence. Or bring another cell phone with me to hook up to it.
PVC, a little bit of rope, just slow manual.
Oh, yeah, that's convenient. Yeah, that's way more convenient.
Pulley system, man, come on.
So I basically just have an old cell phone now that I bring with me.
I still have my old cell phone before my current one. That would probably be what I would just do. Just break out that old HTC One.
I think I have a S7 is the other one.
Nice.
So, actually kind of a newer phone, realistically. Well, I guess the S10 is coming out, right?
S10 is out, isn't it?
Is it out yet? Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. When does that come out?
I think it's out.
Oh my God, it's out.
I was gonna say because my lady is getting
Oh my God, it's only $900.
the Note 9 or whatever it is.
I have the Note 9, which is this one.
Yeah, that's what she wants. She likes some of the stylus and camera functionality on it because she does a lot of cell phone photography.
I like it. I like it. It's pretty good.
I've got to get her a little more accustomed to my camera so she can do some real photography.
Somebody says there's problems with the
Problems?
S10 Plus.
Oh, well,
Somebody's being edgy.
whatever.
Oh, this thing only came out a week ago, so I don't feel that bad. No, the S10 Plus only came out 6
Did it
days
just
ago.
come out? All right.
Yeah, something like that, a week ago.
I don't use Samsung phones.
But it's $1,000 for, let's see, no, $900 for 128 gig unlocked version. Oh, B&H has it for $700. Let's see. Let's check it out.
Is it the
Oh,
smaller one?
instant savings of $250 off at B&H. Although they're probably not open today. Yeah. Check back in 8 hours or whatever, and you'll be able to buy it. Thank you for your patience while we observe Shabbat. Shabbos. You don't know about that?
It doesn't apply to me, so I just kind of nod and smile and go, okay.
No, B&H is, you can't even order online on Saturday.
Really?
Yeah, it's the Shabbos. You can't do anything. You can look at their website.
Power
You
to
have to
them.
wait. Like, you can't check out for 7 hours and 48 minutes.
Do they employ a gentleman named Walter?
I think it's Walter Sobchak. I don't roll on Saturday.
It's Shabbos.
Shabbos.
I mean, yeah, I'm aware of Shabbos. It's just I did not know that B&H observed it.
Yeah,
kinda
B&H
cool.
and
I give him some love for that.
B&H and some other camera store.
I think companies that don't that stick to some kind of we take this day off even though we could in theory be doing business this day, whether it's for their employees or for other reasons, I kind of tend to just respect that. I know a lot of people
It's frustrating a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, it's sometimes frustrating. Like a great example of one of those ones that might not be the best in the eye of the beholder, but like Hobby Lobby, right? They're never open Sunday.
Are they not open on a Sunday?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, because their ownership is super religious.
They're just weird, so I don't shop there. I don't give them my money.
I don't either. I just know of the business.
Yeah, it creeps. Big D Smoke says I ain't paying $1 for any cell phone because it's absolutely not worth it for me. I play games and watch movies on my phone. That's it. I'm actually about to upgrade to a Galaxy 7. Seriously.
Nice.
He's going to upgrade to a Galaxy 7.
Hey, man. You do you. I think I miss the absolute bulletproof level that cell phones used to be.
Oh, I don't miss that. They were ridiculous.
I miss I used to have an LG Touch back in the day.
Yeah, we don't really have any fish questions here.
And I loved that thing.
Yeah.
Because it was durable. It was super reliable. It had the built-in full tactile QWERTY keyboard. You had to break the phone open. You remember those?
Yeah.
So there's the whole LG Touch line. I had the Touch 1 and eventually I had the Touch 3. I loved those things to death. And yeah, you don't have proper full internet like you do on today's smartphones. But I didn't need it. I think now that I have full internet on my phone, it's actually worse for me than when I didn't have it.
Well, you didn't need it back then as much anyhow, though.
Yeah.
There just wasn't that much there wasn't really anybody demanding any kind of connectivity. You know what I mean?
Except iPhone users.
Well, I just mean in 2004, right?
Yeah.
I was opening a restaurant, which is just anybody out there, it's a brand new restaurant. It's extremely stressful time. People need answers all the time, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And it was literally just just call my cell phone. That was it. If you really need something, call. If not, that's it. And, I think I could think back on it, and it was really maybe 25 phone calls a day,
Mm.
something like that, which is way less than everything nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From text messages to emails to Facebook messages to YouTube messages. You know what I mean? Like, just like, but like
Oh yeah.
20 phone calls a day seem like, oh, it's crazy.
I get 25 notifications for the same thing from Facebook a day, and I dismiss it every time. Vaguely scream at Facebook to myself to leave me alone.
Yeah. Oops, somebody pushed the doorbell. Somebody's here.
Fierce Defender chips.
It is 11. Oh, we got to go. We got to go because I have to go do pictures of a wedding.
Yeah.
But Alyssa was asking, one of my weird colored sword plants has sprouted a flower thing.
Nice.
And now there's leaves coming off of the flower thing. Am I supposed to weigh the flower part down with a rock or... Question mark.
Oh, just or question mark. Okay.
Yeah.
So I typically do not weigh them down when the child spike comes out like that, because it'll do a series of flowers. Typically, you'll have anywhere between 1 and 6 or 7 plants, depends on the sword type and how much room it has to grow and how much nutrients and blah 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 blah. I let mine just float in the water column until I see reasonable roots coming out of it and at least a couple of good healthy leaves, and then I'll clip the furthest on the end as long as it fits those parameters off of the child stem, and I'll plant that child. That's my personal use. I know a lot of people that actually prefer weighting down the child spike and letting them root immediately. It's just personal preference.
I let mine float also.
I like to let mine
weigh
float.
down.
It's the lazy way.
I just find it's been more successful as far as the two options. I found it to be more successful if I just let it float.
I tend to see better, healthy root systems doing it that way.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to, and
I mean,
that's all I
I'll
care about. In
You
the
know,
soil.
I even do that with just like plants that I trim off of stuff. I just let them float and root and then plant them. It's really no like. There's no advantage, in my opinion, to just planting them right away.
Speaking of plants, how have the super secret plants from AGA been doing for you?
Pretty good.
Because mine just melted apart.
Oh, really?
It drove me crazy.
I'm growing them like crazy. You suck.
I did my
Terrible.
I did my usual. I literally let them float in a system that has CO2 and highlight. Fell apart.
I got them rooted. We can go trim some off.
Nice.
Yeah, it's in the 240.
I don't need them yet.
Okay, well then, never mind. We won't trim them.
When I can get the tank project that's sitting that I have to work on done, then I'll need them.
Got it. No problem. We'll make it work. We'll make it happen. We'll make a video about it. So, anyhow, if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints or stuff like that, you can post them up onto the Patreon, onto this video's link, like on the Patreon page. Post your questions on there or whatnot, and then we'll be getting to them the next time we do a show. And hopefully there'll be more interaction and all that kind of stuff, and you guys will be able to do more direct chat and all that kind of stuff as we incorporate the new software and stuff. But today was kind of the test. See if Vicky kills us or not, being here on a Saturday, and make sure that everything was going to work properly. So far it's working properly. I still have more work and everything to do in the office here to make it better. As Alyssa has seen and Bentley has seen now, that yes, there are a lot of boxes and wires and things that still need doing, but
Hey man,
it's coming along.
it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming along.
Maybe next time we'll put up something ahead of time to gather questions that want to be answered or topics to talk about.
That's this video post will stay up on my Patreon page.
Okay, cool.
And then so if anybody comments onto this, ask questions or whatever, that kind of stuff, that's where we're going to start from.
And as far as cadence, we're not sure yet.
Cadence?
How often we'll do these?
Oh yeah, we don't know.
We're
No promises.
We're feeling a lot of this out.
It'd be like, no promises.
It definitely
no
won't. It definitely won't be
demands.
once a week because my schedule won't allow that. But
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Bye-bye.